What happens when boundaries are crossed in the most sacred places, our schools? This is a tale that will chill your spine and captivate your imagination. In a seemingly ordinary high school, a forbidden affair between a teacher and her student begins, shrouded in secrecy and intrigue. What starts as whispers in the corridors quickly spirals into a dark vortex of obsession and manipulation. As we peel back the layers of this twisted story, we'll uncover secrets that were buried deep within the school walls, leading to a deadly conclusion that no one saw coming. Prepare yourself for a journey into the shadows, where the lines between right and wrong blur, and the consequences of crossing forbidden boundaries become all too real. Keep watching as we dive into this true crime documentary, revealing the haunting tale of a teacher-student relationship that ended in murder, leaving a community forever changed. Picture a school nestled in the heart of a quiet suburb, its brick walls veiled in ivy and whispers of history. The halls echo with the rhythmic clang of lockers and the chatter of students eager to escape to their next class. Classrooms are neatly arranged with desks lined in perfect rows, the scent of chalk hanging lightly in the air as the vibrant sunlight filters through the large windows, casting comforting warmth within. To an outsider, it appears as a sanctuary of education and growth, a place where dreams are nurtured and futures are forged. Yet beneath this facade lies something far more sinister. Meet Ms. Clara Jennings, a well-regarded teacher with an impeccable reputation, known for her infectious enthusiasm and dedication. Her students respected her, the faculty admired her. But behind her kind eyes and gentle smiles, there lay a darkness few ever glimpsed. And then there's Daniel, a promising student with ambitions as lofty as the sky, whose path was lit by dreams of a better future. Daniel, however, carried within him the vulnerabilities of a young soul yearning for direction and validation. This ordinary backdrop of school life, bustling with vibrant energy and youthful innocence, became the stage for a tale of forbidden desires and hidden agendas. While laughter and learning danced through the corridors by day, shadows whispered their secrets by night, weaving a web that would eventually ensnare this community in its grasp. The school, a place meant for enlightenment, became instead a theater of deception, where truth was masked and intentions blurred, waiting for the moment when light would expose the darkness within. Ms. Clara Jennings, a name that commanded respect within the school's corridors, was more than just a teacher. She was a beacon of inspiration for many. Armed with a degree from a prestigious university, her journey into education seemed destined for greatness. For years, she built a sterling reputation, blending charisma with an unflagging commitment to her students' success. Always ready with a warm smile and a gentle word of encouragement, Clara charmed the faculty and students alike. Her classroom was a sanctuary of learning, where even the most reluctant pupils discovered motivation. But beneath this facade of perfection, a more complex portrait was taking shape. It started subtly, with colleagues noting her tendency to linger in conversations with certain students, her eyes alight with an intensity that was hard to place. She had this way, a fellow teacher recalled, of making you feel like you were the only person in the room, but it could be uncomfortable at times, especially with the students. The whispers grew louder when Clara's focus on Daniel became more pronounced. She believed in me when no one else did, Daniel once confided to a friend, unaware of the storm brewing ahead. Clara's passion seemed to extend beyond professional dedication. It bordered on something more obsessive. Her need to be involved in her students' lives, particularly Daniel's, signaled a blurring of lines, a descent into a dangerous terrain where her personal and professional worlds collided. What drove this successful teacher down such a perilous path? Perhaps it was a longing for control, or perhaps it was that her own dreams, once deferred, found a twisted outlet in Daniel's potential. The darkness in Clara was not a sudden storm, but a gathering cloud, slowly casting its shadow over those around her, waiting for the moment it would unleash its fury. The seeds of obsession were sown, setting the stage for a tragic unraveling of lives and destinies aligned by fate. Daniel Stevens was not just another face in the crowd at Springdale High. He was a young man brimming with potential and dreams that reached well beyond the confines of his surroundings. Growing up in a modest neighborhood, Daniel's life was marked by the struggles faced by his hardworking single mother, who juggled multiple jobs to keep their household afloat. From a tender age, Daniel resolved to pursue a path that would lift them out of hardship, cementing his aspirations with a quiet determination that set him apart from his peers. Gifted with a sharp mind and a natural curiosity, he gravitated towards challenges that others shied away from, seeing every obstacle as a stepping stone towards his future success. However, with his brilliance came a vulnerability, an eagerness for approval, and a need for validation that made him an easy target for those who knew how to manipulate such traits. Enter MS Clara Jennings, whose interest in Daniel seemed, at first, like the mentoring he craved. She showered him with praise, acknowledging his potential in a manner that was both flattering and intoxicating. In Daniel's eyes, she was the mentor he had always needed, someone who believed in him unconditionally when others couldn't see his worth. Their initial interactions were innocent enough, extra hours spent discussing homework, brainstorming ideas for school projects, and mapping out a future that glistened with promise. Daniel found himself drawn to Clara's magnetic presence, a guiding light in the fog of uncertainty that often clouded his path. Little did he know, however, that this seemingly nurturing relationship was fraught with undercurrents that would eventually tug him into deeper, darker waters. In public, others saw a diligent student and a dedicated teacher, the perfect picture of academic camaraderie. Yet beyond the school's walls, Daniel's life was intertwined with unknown dangers, set against the backdrop of his modest home, where he would often retreat to study late into the night, fueled by the hope of a better tomorrow. This glimpse into Daniel's world paints a picture of a young man on the cusp of greatness, yet teetering on the edge of something he couldn't fully comprehend. His perspective of the blossoming relationship with MS Jennings was one of gratitude and admiration, leaving him blissfully unaware of the dangerous path they were embarking upon together. As their connection deepened, the boundaries between mentorship and manipulation began to blur, setting the stage for a story where innocence would meet experience, and where dreams would be confronted with a harsh reality. The start of the affair was as insidious as it was unassuming. It began with a simple invitation from MS Clara Jennings to Daniel Stevens, conveyed with the gentleness of a mentor's concern, an opportunity to stay after class for additional guidance. Daniel, eager to excel and feeling the allure of recognition, accepted without hesitation. In the quietude of the empty classroom, an unspoken bond was forged between them, with Clara commending his efforts and offering insights far beyond standard curriculum. Gradually, these sessions became more frequent, a routine that no one questioned due to Clara's revered status as a dedicated teacher. Yet within these secluded walls, the dynamic began to shift subtly. Clara's questions grew more personal, her encouragement laced with a charisma that sought to envelop Daniel in its thrall. She guided him not only in academics, but also through his personal struggles, blurring the lines that should have remained firm. Daniel, yearning for a figure of trust, found solace in her interest, mistaking it for genuine care, while Clara's intentions grew more opaque. They devised clever means to maintain the secrecy of their burgeoning affair. Burners, text messages sent under the cover of night, encrypted chat applications, all tools in their clandestine communication. Their meetings, once confined to the school, expanded to off-campus locales under the guise of mentoring, as Clara's manipulation took deeper root. The thrill of secrecy added a forbidden allure, seducing Daniel into a world he'd never imagined, a world where excitement masked the looming danger. There were early warning signs, small red flags fluttering in the periphery, ignored by both teacher and student alike. Clara's increasingly possessive nature, her insistence on knowing Daniel's every move, and the dismissive way she spoke of his friends, all overlooked, rationalized as a teacher's concern for her students' well-being. Daniel, in his naivety, could not see the manipulation, nor the controlling hand guiding him down a path fraught with peril. The affair's beginnings were not marked by a singular event, but rather a series of gentle inclinations that, when woven together, formed a tapestry of obsession and deceit, setting the stage for the inevitable unraveling of both their lives. The double life unraveled in ways neither Clara Jennings nor Daniel Stevens could have anticipated. As they maneuvered through the labyrinth of their clandestine affair, the facade they erected began to show fractures. Clara, once the epitome of composure and professionalism, became increasingly volatile in her interactions with colleagues, her once unfailing patience now marked by unpredictable irritability. Whispers of her mood swings and uncharacteristic absences soon pervaded the faculty room. Meanwhile, Daniel, previously known for his relentless focus and academic prowess, found himself ensnared in a web of distractions. His grades began a slow descent, and he developed a curious aloofness that perplexed both his teachers and friends. Daniel's late-night study sessions grew lonelier, burdened with the weight of secrets he could not share. His mother noticed an unsettling change, a distant gaze where determination once resided. Living a lie took its toll, the pressure mounting as the boundaries between their hidden world and reality blurred. Clara's obsession with Daniel deepened, leading her to design elaborate alibis and excuses, each more tangled than the last. Her real life became a shadow of her secret one, where she controlled the narrative and bent events to her will. The psychological toll on both was profound. Clara, consumed by the need to maintain control, found herself ensnared in a prison of her own making, where fear of exposure added to her paranoia. For Daniel, the once clear lines of morality and truth, now obscured by his trust in Clara, left an emotional scar that festered with guilt and confusion. As the stakes rose and the act of juggling their dual lives grew more precarious, the carefully constructed deception began to crumble. Friends, once confidantes, now sensed something amiss, distant echoes of concern and suspicion growing louder. The veneer of their everyday personas was cracking, exposing the raw, vulnerable selves beneath. With each lie spun and every deceitful act committed, the weight of living in shadows strained their mental fortitude, spiraling them towards an inevitable collapse. In the intricate dance of dual identities, the truth lingered like a spectre, waiting to emerge and shatter the illusion completely. Little did they know, this was only the beginning of an unraveling that would soon draw everyone into its devastating wake. The breaking point came on a day that began like any other, cloaked in normalcy, yet charged with a silent tension that seemed to hang like a storm cloud. It was a late afternoon, the final bell had rung, and the school slowly emptied of its usual bustle. Daniel was alone in the art studio, a place he often retreated to, seeking solace among the scattered canvases and forgotten paintbrushes. Clara found him there, her expression a mix of urgency and something darker, a shadow that loomed as she approached. It was supposed to be another of their secret meetings, but this time something felt undeniably different. Clara's voice, normally a soothing balm, was taut with an uncharacteristic edge as she spoke. She insisted that Daniel join her for a weekend retreat, a secluded escape from prying eyes and growing scrutiny. Her insistence bordered on desperation, a threadbare veil barely concealing the cracks in her carefully constructed world. Daniel hesitated, a knot of unease tightening in his chest. It was his mother's birthday, and he had promised to spend the day with her. The conflicting demands of his clandestine life and familial loyalty clashed within him, creating a storm of emotions he struggled to contain. He tried to explain, to reason with Clara, but her eyes flared with a possessiveness that unnerved him, her words now laced with a subtle threat. "You know what happens if we don't keep this secret," she whispered, her breath a chilling breeze that sent shivers down his spine. The air between them became an electric charge, crackling with suppressed fear and unspoken truths. It was a confrontation unlike any they'd had before, drawing the fine line between mentor and manipulator in stark relief. The illusion of control was slipping through Clara's fingers, and in her desperation, she failed to notice Daniel's quiet rebellion, the flicker of doubt now igniting into resolve. As he walked away that day, heart pounding with the weight of a looming decision, Daniel knew he was standing on the precipice of something irreversible. The walls of their hidden world were closing in, and as they teetered on the edge, the inexorable pull of fate threatened to dismantle everything they'd built in secrecy. The breaking point was not marked by a loud crescendo, but by the silent rupture of trust, a moment in time where innocence met an inescapable reality, setting the gears in motion for the unraveling that would change their lives forever. The shadows thickened, inching ever closer to the truth that lay waiting in the wings, a revelation poised to shatter the fragile world they had known. The discovery came quite unexpectedly, like an abrupt gust of wind that blew open a door long kept shut. It was an ordinary school day when the corridors buzzed with life and the gentle hum of learning filled the air. But for Daniel Stevens, the morning carried an unshakable unrest, a feeling of anticipation wrapped in dread. Unknown to him, the threads of their hidden life were already unraveling. The email, sent in haste, was an oversight Clara had not foreseen. Intended for Daniel, it instead landed in the inbox of a vigilant colleague. The language, though guarded, revealed enough to spark a curiosity that would soon ignite into action. Ms. Rachel Cole, a history teacher with an eye for detail and a heart tuned to the frequencies of student welfare, was the one to uncover the secret. Concerned by what she had read, she confided in her trusted friend and school counselor, Mr. Harris. The two pondered their next move, torn between the gravity of the situation and the potential ramifications of their discovery. It was during a routine meeting with the school principal, Mr. Thompson, where their concerns were finally voiced. The revelation hit with the force of a thunderclap, shaking the very foundation of the institution. A discreet investigation was launched, marked by hushed conversations and veiled inquiries. The truth, once hidden, now seeped into the open, spreading through the school like wildfire. As the news broke, the immediate fallout was palpable. Daniel was called into the principal's office, flanked by his mother, who wore a mask of concern tangled with disbelief. His heart pounded as he faced the stern eyes of authority, the weight of his secret now an unbearable burden. Outside the school's walls, the ripples of the discovery extended into the community. Friends who once knew Daniel felt a mix of betrayal and empathy, their perceptions of him now altered by the gravity of his situation. Parents whispered amongst themselves, voicing fears about trust and the safety of their own children. Within the school, the faculty met the news with a mixture of shock and indignation, troubled by the breach of ethics and the darkness it cast over their educational sanctuary. Interviews with students like Daniel's close friend, Jason, painted a picture of confusion and alarming revelation. "We knew something was off, but we never imagined this," Jason reflected, his voice a blend of dismay and sorrow. For Daniel's mother, the impact was most profound, her son's future now shrouded in uncertainty. "As a mother, you never think such things can happen," she expressed in a tearful admission, her words heavy with the weight of shattered trust. The school community stood at a crossroads, grappling with not only the shock of the affair, but also the implications it carried. The discovery was more than just an exposure of secrets. It was a catalyst that ignited a broader conversation about boundaries, ethics, and the responsibilities of those entrusted with the care of young minds. As the dust began to settle, the stage was set for the next chapter of this harrowing saga, one where the quest for truth would uncover even deeper layers of deceit, leading to consequences more dire than anyone could have foreseen. The public outcry was swift and unrelenting, like a torrent unleashed from a dam long held back. The scandal that had simmered beneath the surface now exploded into full view, its tendrils reaching far beyond the bounds of Springdale High. News crews descended upon the town, their cameras capturing every angle of the unfolding drama. Headlines screamed from the front pages of newspapers: "Scandal at Springdale High. Teacher-student affair shocks community." Television screens flickered with the faces of anchors, delivering the news with a gravity befitting such a dark revelation. The town found itself thrust into an unforgiving spotlight, its once peaceful demeanor shattered by the glare of media scrutiny. As the story gained momentum, public forums and online comment sections buzzed with heated debates and fervent opinions. Residents of the town grappled with a range of emotions: outrage at the betrayal of trust, disgust at the erosion of professional ethics, and a profound sadness for the victims caught in this web of deceit. Parents gathered at the local community center, their voices raised in anger and concern, questioning how such a breach could have occurred within their trusted educational institution. School board meetings, once quiet affairs, became charged with tension as community members demanded answers and accountability. Public opinion was divided. Some called for immediate action and stringent measures to prevent a recurrence of such a tragedy, while others urged compassion for the young lives irrevocably altered by the scandal. Social media channels overflowed with comments, each post a digital echo of the collective shock and disbelief. Arguments flared between those who sought to assign blame and those advocating for a more nuanced understanding of the circumstances that led to such a devastating outcome. Among the voices were those like Mrs. Thompson, a parent who had long advocated for transparency in school policies. As parents, we put our faith in the hands of educators to protect and nurture our children, not to exploit them, she asserted in a public statement, her voice tinged with a resolute determination. The narrative grew more complex as former students and faculty began to speak out, some in defense of the school's handling of the situation, others criticizing the lack of oversight that allowed such an affair to flourish unchecked. The scandal served as a grim reminder of the fragile boundaries between personal and professional realms, and the devastating consequences when those lines are crossed. In the midst of chaos, the community found itself at a pivotal juncture, seeking to heal and rebuild trust in the wake of such betrayal. The public outcry not only illuminated the depth of the scandal, but also sparked a broader conversation about the responsibilities of educators, the importance of safeguarding young minds, and the need for vigilance in upholding the integrity of institutions meant to nurture and educate. As the dust settled, Springdale High stood as a somber testament to the lasting impact of a scandal that had reached into the very soul of the community, leaving a legacy of lessons learnt and a resolve to prevent such darkness from casting its shadow again. The crime unfolded on an eerie autumn evening, under the watchful gaze of a waning moon that cast a pallid glow across the deserted grounds of Springdale High. The school, once a sanctuary of knowledge, turned into the backdrop of a chilling tragedy that no one could have foreseen. It was in the forgotten corners of the old gymnasium, where the air felt heavy with an unspeakable tension, that the final chapter of this dark tale was written. Clara Jennings, driven by a desperate need to reclaim control of a life spiraling beyond her grasp, arranged to meet Daniel inside the secluded confines of the school after hours. What should have been a place of safety became a stage for a confrontation laced with danger. The details of what transpired in those shadowed hallways emerged slowly. A heated argument that escalated, Daniel's voice rising in defiance against the teacher he once trusted. In a moment of blind rage, Clara's facade shattered, revealing the depths of her turmoil. Armed with a letter opener, a tool she had intended to use as a threat rather than a weapon, she lashed out, her actions fueled by a toxic mixture of fear and fury. The small tool became an instrument of devastation, piercing the fragile balance between life and death. Law enforcement was summoned to the scene by the chilling echoes of a scream, a sound captured by a late working janitor who stumbled upon the aftermath of the encounter. The gymnasium, now a crime scene, was cordoned off, the pulsing lights of police vehicles painting a surreal picture against the velvety darkness of the night. Detectives meticulously combed through the area, their flashlights sweeping over scattered evidence, overturned chairs, a drop of crimson staining the polished floor, and the letter opener, abandoned as a silent witness to the violence it wrought. As the investigation unfolded, forensic teams gathered crucial evidence, piecing together the narrative of what had unfolded in that hushed space. Clara was found in a state of shock, her hands marked by the crimson of guilt and despair. The charges brought against her were grave: second-degree murder, a betrayal of the trust vested in her role as an educator and a guardian of young lives. Police reports documented the scene with clinical precision, the position of the body, the trajectory of the wounds, and the emotional tumult that had led to this irreversible act. Witnesses were interviewed, their testimonies painting a vivid picture of the events leading up to the crime. The town held its breath as the story spread, the tragedy reverberating through the community, leaving an indelible mark on the hearts and minds of those who had known Daniel and Clara. The crime had shattered more than just a life. It had fractured the very foundation of a community, casting a somber shadow over the place where dreams once flourished. As the investigation continued, the pursuit of justice became a beacon of hope in the darkness, a quest to make sense of the senseless and to forge a path towards healing and closure. The investigation unveiling the truth. In the aftermath of the tragedy, the community was left reeling and seeking answers. The detectives assigned to the case, seasoned professionals in the art of uncovering the truth, approached the investigation with meticulous care. They entered a world where every piece of evidence was a clue to unlock the narrative hidden beneath the layers of secrecy and emotion. Their task was daunting, fraught with the challenges of navigating the complex web of relationships and potential motives that lay before them. From the outset, the detectives faced the difficult task of piecing together the timeline of events leading to that fateful night. Forensic experts were called upon to examine the scene with precision, using advanced techniques to ensure no detail was overlooked. With the letter opener as the primary piece of evidence, they needed to establish its role and the sequence of events that led to its deadly use. Witness interviews became a critical component of the investigation, each recounting adding another facet to the emerging picture. The janitor, who had discovered the aftermath, described the haunting echoes that filled the gymnasium, while colleagues of Clara Jennings spoke of her recent erratic behavior and unexplained absences. Daniel's friends, who had long sensed an unspoken tension, shared their observations of his shifting demeanor and growing isolation in the days leading up to the crime. As the investigation progressed, a surprising twist emerged, shedding new light on the circumstances surrounding the affair. Unbeknownst to Clara, Daniel had begun to confide in a friend, sharing his concerns and unease about their relationship. This friend, previously unaware of the depth of their entanglement, was able to provide vital insights into Daniel's emotional state, helping detectives chart the psychological landscape that had entrapped both teacher and student. A text message discovered on Daniel's phone became a pivotal piece of evidence, revealing Clara's increasing desperation and attempts to maintain control over their secretive world. As detectives wove together these disparate threads, a narrative of manipulation, fear, and ultimate tragedy unfolded. The investigation was not merely about seeking justice for the crime committed, but also about understanding the deeper truths that had led to its occurrence. Each revelation brought clarity, yet with it, a deeper sense of sorrow for the lives irrevocably altered by Clara's unchecked obsession and Daniel's misplaced trust. The tale that emerged was one of a connection twisted by power and vulnerability, urging the community to reflect on the fragile boundaries that can so easily be crossed when trust is misplaced. The trial commenced within the hallowed halls of the county courthouse, its stone facade an imposing reminder of the gravity of justice. Inside, the atmosphere was electric with anticipation, as spectators filled the gallery eager to witness the proceedings that would dissect the tragic tale of Clara Jennings and Daniel Stevens. The prosecution, led by a tenacious attorney known for her unyielding pursuit of truth, laid out a narrative steeped in betrayal and manipulation. "What we have here," she declared in her opening statement, "is a clear breach of trust, a teacher's responsibility twisted into a malign obsession that culminated in an unthinkable crime." The courtroom sat in rapt silence as she detailed the evidence, painting Clara as a predator who had ensnared Daniel in an illicit affair, driven by control and desperation. With each piece of evidence presented, the prosecution sought to build an unassailable case. Witnesses took the stand, recounting their experiences with Clara and Daniel, each testimony a brick in the wall of proof being erected. Forensics experts spoke of the letter opener, its trajectory giving voice to the violence of that fateful night. The anguish of Daniel's mother, called to testify, echoed through the chamber, her words raw with the pain of a life lost too soon. Yet the defense was equally compelling in its dedication to dismantling the prosecution's narrative. Clara's attorney, a seasoned defender with a reputation for challenging even the most damning evidence, argued that the tragedy was not the product of premeditated malice, but rather a momentary lapse in judgment fueled by emotional turmoil. He painted Clara not as a villain, but as a woman ensnared in her own web of psychological distress. The defense introduced expert witnesses who testified to Clara's mental state, contending that her actions were the result of overwhelming pressure and an inability to consciously control her impulses. As the trial progressed, moments of shocking revelation punctuated the proceedings. A revelation surfaced during cross-examination, a journal entry penned by Clara, hinting at her internal conflict and desire to end the affair, which cast doubt on the notion of her manipulative intent. Both sides presented their closing arguments with fervor, each seeking to sway the jury's perception of Clara's culpability. The prosecution appealed to the jury's sense of justice, urging them to consider the irrefutable evidence of Clara's actions, while the defense beseeched them to view her as a victim of her own mental fragility. With the gavel's final strike, the courtroom was left in solemn contemplation, the weight of justice now resting on the shoulders of 12 jurors tasked with determining the outcome of this tragic narrative. The verdict was delivered in a hushed courtroom, the air thick with anticipation as each juror rose to announce their decision. Guilty. The word echoed like a tolling bell, reverberating through the chamber and into the hearts of all present. Clara Jennings stood motionless as the weight of the verdict settled upon her shoulders, her eyes downcast and devoid of the vibrant determination they once possessed. The jury, after painstaking deliberation, had reached a unanimous conclusion. Clara was guilty of second-degree murder, a conviction that underscored the severity of her actions and breached trust. The sentencing phase brought its own solemn gravity, as the judge pronounced a sentence of 25 years in prison, a consequence befitting the crime that had shattered a community and stolen a promising life. As Clara was led away, a palpable sense of finality filled the room, the chapter of her tragic tale drawing to a close under the watchful eyes of justice. Reactions among those involved were as varied as they were poignant. Daniel's mother, who had sat through the trial with quiet dignity, wept openly, a mixture of relief and sorrow, knowing justice for her son had been served, yet acutely aware of the loss that would forever shadow her life. Her voice, heavy with grief, expressed gratitude for the support shown by the community and a hope that no other mother would endure such pain. Clara's colleagues exchanged looks of disbelief mingled with resignation, grappling with the reality that one of their own had crossed unimaginable boundaries. "We trusted her," one teacher lamented, reflecting a sentiment shared by many who had once held Clara in high regard. The public's response mirrored the complexity of emotions stirred by the trial. Some found solace in the outcome, viewing it as a necessary step towards healing and accountability. Others were left questioning the systemic factors that allowed such a relationship to flourish unchecked, sparking discussions on reform and oversight within educational institutions. Within the town, the lasting impacts of the case lingered like a shadow over Springdale High. The school initiated a comprehensive review of its policies, implementing stringent measures to prevent such breaches of trust. Educators underwent additional training, emphasizing the importance of maintaining professional boundaries and the ethical responsibilities inherent in their roles as guardians of young minds. Beyond the institutional changes, the community grappled with themes of justice and accountability, seeking closure in the aftermath of a tragedy that had touched every corner of their lives. While the courtroom's verdict served as a beacon of justice, the path to collective healing was a journey that extended beyond its walls, a journey marked by introspection, resilience, and the enduring quest to protect the sanctity of trust. As the town slowly emerged from the shadows of the scandal, it carried forward the lessons learned, a resolve to safeguard its youth, and a commitment to fostering an environment where such darkness could never again take root. The story of Clara Jennings and Daniel Stevens, though marred by tragedy, served as a poignant reminder of the fragile boundaries that exist when trust is entrusted to human hands, and the profound responsibility to honor it diligently. The aftermath, a community forever changed. Springdale, once a quiet town defined by its tranquil streets and warm community bonds, now lay under a pall of lingering sorrow and reflection. The tragic events had scarred its collective psyche, leaving an indelible impression on all who called it home. The school, previously a beacon of learning and youthful promise, was forced to confront the shadows that had lurked within its walls. In response, an immediate overhaul of policies and procedures was enacted, a testament to the administration's commitment to safeguarding its students. Staff underwent rigorous training on professional conduct and boundaries, while open forums were established to encourage dialogue, transparency, and healing. Parents were invited to participate actively, fostering a renewed sense of trust and engagement. For those intimately involved in the tragedy, the echoes of loss reverberated through their everyday lives. Daniel's mother, a woman of enduring strength, became an advocate for awareness and education. Her voice, once filled with the melody of her son's dreams, now echoed a fervent call for vigilance and empathy within the community. If we protect even one child from experiencing a similar fate, then our efforts are not in vain. She shared at a community gathering, her words underscored by a poignant resolve. The Stevenses were not alone in their journey towards healing. Jason, Daniel's closest friend, found solace in channeling his grief into creative expression. His art classes became a refuge where he could transform pain into powerful visuals that spoke to the heart of loss and resilience. Among the faculty, introspection became a common thread, weaving through the halls where Clara Jennings once walked. Teachers like M.S. Cole, whose actions had uncovered the affair, took on mentorship roles with renewed fervor, dedicating themselves to nurturing their students' well-being with compassion and care. Community members rallied together, drawing strength from unity and shared experiences. Candlelight vigils lit up the town square, each flame a tribute to the lives altered by the tragedy, a collective vow to honor Daniel's memory through positive change. Conversations that once hesitated at the edge of difficult topics now flourished, igniting a proactive stance on ethical boundaries and the responsibilities of educators. The school board initiated a task force aimed at continuous evaluation and reform, ensuring that the lessons of the past were neither forgotten nor repeated. As Springdale navigated the path towards healing, its people discovered an unexpected resilience rooted in empathy and understanding. The tragedy had indeed left its mark, but from the depths of sorrow emerged a community more aware, more connected, and more committed to protecting its future. The story of Daniel and Clara, though a chapter etched in darkness, became a catalyst for light, a testament to the power of redemption and the enduring human spirit to rise, learn, and thrive. In conclusion, the tragic tale of Clara Jennings and Daniel Stevens serves as a chilling reminder of what lurks beneath the surface when personal and professional boundaries are blurred. We have journeyed through a web of deception, manipulation, and ultimately, disaster, all stemming from a forbidden affair that defied ethical norms and shattered lives. The haunting questions left in its wake are profound. How do we ensure that the trusted sanctuaries of education remain just that, free from the shadows of impropriety? What safeguards can communities implement to protect young minds from being ensnared by those meant to guide them? As we reflect on the events that transpired in Springdale, we are reminded of the heavy responsibility borne by educators, the fragility of trust, and the dire consequences when it is broken. This story implores us to remain vigilant, to foster environments where respect and professionalism are steadfastly upheld, and to remain ever conscious of the subtle lines that define integrity. We invite you, our viewers, to share your thoughts on this complex narrative. How can such tragedies be prevented in the future? What lessons can communities and institutions learn to fortify the ethical standards that safeguard our youth? Your insights are invaluable as we seek to spark conversations that could lead to change. Thank you for joining us on this exploration into the shadows. If you found this story compelling, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more intriguing tales. Hit the notification bell to stay connected with our latest releases. Until next time, remember, the line between light and darkness is often finer than we dare to imagine. Stay curious, stay vigilant, and stay with us as we uncover more stories that dare to tread where few have walked.